Hey there, this is Red. It's time for another episode of Red Plays, and today we're going to talk about Dune Imperium. So this is actually going to be not quite a play. We're going to do a setup to play. It's going to be an episode 0, and then we're going to go into a solo play after this. So that's one of the things about this setup is we're going to go through the solo play setup rules, which are just slightly different than the regular play rules. So really you cover most of the regular setup first, and then there's some solo play stuff that you do. So let's go through that and get that rolling. And what you need is page 4 and 5 of the rule book here. And we're gonna just go through the steps that are here. So we're gonna start on A. You need your mentat, which is this little guy right here. You can go right up here up top on the board. All right, next thing you're gonna need is your 4 faction markers, which are over here, and they look like these. All right, and you're gonna need to put them on the faction spaces. So we're gonna grab our Emperor one and put it there. Then we need our Spacing Guild, which is right here. Spacing Guild, the Bene Gesserit, which is this one. And then our Fremen, which is right here. We go right here. All right, so we've done A at this point. Now we're going to go to B, which is create our conflict deck. Now the conflict deck is made up of cards that say conflict on them. Amazing, I know. And there's going to be different cards in this deck. There are 1 cards, there are 2 cards, and there are 3 cards in the deck. So if I take a look at the 1, there's 4 1 cards, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 2 cards, and 4 3 cards. So what we need is we need 1 conflict 1 card. So we're going to shuffle these up and grab one out of there. The rest go back in the box. Conflict 2 cards, we're going to shuffle up, and we need 5 of these. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the rest go back in the box. Conflict 3 cards, we're going to shuffle up, and then we have our conflict deck. So the game is going to proceed until we run out of conflict cards or somebody scores 10 points. Thus far, for me and my solo plays, it's always been the 10 points. I haven't run out of conflict cards. So, all right, I need a spot, put the conflict cards. There is a spot on the board, which is right here, because I got all this stuff going on. I'm going to take my conflict deck and put it right there, put it up over here, off to the side a little bit. All right, so we've got our conflict deck going. We need to get ready for our intrigue cards. So our intrigue cards are these ones right here with a little eyeball on them. So these are my favorite cards in the game. They let you do kind of some sneaky side deal kind of stuff. So there's some plot cards in here, there's some combat cards, and there's some in-game cards. Having not played multiplayer yet, I enjoy them in the single player game. I think I'm going to really enjoy them in the multiplayer game. All right, I'm going to take these. They're all shuffled up, and there's a whole bunch of them too. So I really haven't ran into the same cards in the games that I've played myself. All right, next up we need to work on the Imperium deck. Now, the thing about the Imperium deck is the Imperium deck has cards with this back on them. Now, there's going to be a lot of cards with this back on it in your set. There are some cards that don't go into the Imperium deck. So let's talk about the cards that don't go into the Imperium deck. Number 1 set of cards that don't go into the Imperium deck are your player cards. So your player cards are going to have little icons in the corner up there. Those are your player cards. Don't put those in the Imperium deck. There's 3 other sets of cards that don't go into the Imperium deck. And that's going to be these 3 cards. So, Fold Space does not go into the Imperium deck. Fold Space is earned by going to the Fold Space space on the Spacing Guild. That's a lot of space going on in there. Fold Space and the Spacing Guild is how you get the Fold Space card. All right, then there's the Arrakis Liaison, and he's only going to take a couple of influence to get. And then you have the Spice Must Flow, which takes 9, but gets you a victory point, and then you're going to earn Spice after that. So that's a huge card. All right, getting to 9 influence is kind of tough to do. I'm not sure if it's influence or persuasion. I don't remember what it is. It's pretty much the same thing. All right, so Moving on, everything else is going to be in your your Imperium deck here. You're going to have a ton of cards in here. So I'm going to shuffle them all up a little bit. And now what you need to do with these cards is you're going to create a market. So your market's going to have 5 cards in it. So we're going to go top 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so that's going to be my market there. Now, if something gets bought from the market, you replace it immediately. All right, so we've got our markets out there. So we're done with section C that's right here. We're on to section D. And we're going to grab leaders. So the leaders that I'm going to use for this game are not hiding underneath the book. They're over here on the side. So we're going to use Paul Atreides is going to be me. And then I'm going to use Ariana and the Beast as my 2 automated opponents. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab just another leader out, and on the backs of the leader cards are the turn order. So I'm going to take one of these and just set it off to the side here so I can keep track of the turn order and know what's going on. All right, so we've got our leaders. Then we need our 10 card starting deck. So that was the ones that I showed with the little icon up in the corner there. That little one. So if you take a look, there should be diplomacy, 2 daggers, a couple of convincing arguments, a signet ring, seek allies, reconnaissance, and a couple of Dune the desert planets. That makes your starting deck. You're going to shuffle it up. It's going to go to the left of your player board. All right, so that goes there. Boom. All right, so we each have our 10 card deck, which is step E. We're up to step F, which is resources. So we all start with 1 water, 1 water, 1 water, and 1 water. And then I'm going to find some space on the board here for the resources, which means I'm probably going to need to get my paper out of the way here. So let's see here. Actually, I'm going to set it ever so gently on top of what I've already got set out. So we're going to throw water out here. We're going to throw Solari out here. And we're going to throw the spice out here. So we got all the goodies are out there now. All right, so now we're through F. And we're going to get into G here, which is where we're going to get our cool components for each of our players out. Now I'm going to use gold for Paul here. We're going to use blue for Ariana and red for the Beast. Okay, as we step through this, we're going to put 2 agents on each of the characters. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. We're going to take one of the cylinders and we're going to put it on the 0 space. All right, the next thing we need to worry about is our little combat markers, which are these little swords, a little square with a sword on it. Looks like that. Each player should have one. We're going to put it right here. So sword thingy, sword thingy, sword thingy. That's going to keep track of our combat when we get to that phase. All right, then it says place 4 cubes, 1 each on the bottom spaces of the influence track. Now I'm going to have to get the book out of the way. All right, so the book's going to go away. It's going to go off to the side over here. Bum, 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 bum. All right, so the way I normally do this is I'm going to put mine all the way to the left because that's the player. I try to keep them in order of the players. And we're going to go like this, 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 and this. It just helps for when you have to do the automated players. Sometimes it gets tough to keep track of whose stuff you're moving and you start to forget colors. So I'm going to put them in order of how we're seated at the table here. So gold, blue, red. The other thing I'm going to do to help me keep track of colors is I'm going to take the other cylinder for Ariana, the blue one, and put it on there. For the Beast, I'm going to put his on there. Because what's going to happen during the game is the agents can come off of your card, so you have nothing on there specifically showing what their color is. So that helps me remember which color each of the players are. What I'm going to do with mine is I'm going to take mine and I'm going to put it out here on the High Council because I can potentially earn a seat on the High Council, and that's what that marker is used for. All right, and I'm also going to take my extra agent, and I'm going to put it on this Swordmaster piece right here. Now, there's a way that we're going to talk about later for your automated opponents when they get their agent, and it has to do with a conflict deck. So I'm going to put theirs right out there by the conflict deck. All right, so the next thing we're up to, we've done markers on the influence track. The other cubes represent our troops, and let's see here, we're going to put 3, I believe, in my spot. Yep. So we're going to grab 3. Now, normally, if you're playing multiplayer, everybody would put 3 out there. And it depends on, this is kind of when we get into the solo play rules. So I'm going to close this up because H is select the first player, which is where we're at. And solo play rules, that's a little bit different. So let's pull out our solo play rules here. Now, there's this section right here that talks about depending upon what mode you're playing in, there's a novice mode, a veteran mode, or an expert mode. And I'm setting up for novice mode, so we need to take a look at the things that are going on there. So in novice mode, one of the things we have is your extra starting resources. I get a Solari and a Spice. Yay for me. All right, so we're gonna grab a Spice for me and a Solari for me. All right, other things on that are, I have a no for a 5 Solari token on the Mentat space, so the Mentat's not going to be more expensive. There's the rival starting garrison troops. On novice, they don't get any. Otherwise, they would get 3, which is good. One of the things I talked about was how the additional Swordmasters come out. So what we see there is 5 is the number of cards until the rival Swordmaster comes out. Now, the way they suggest doing that is taking 5 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and putting the 2 tokens underneath there. What I'm going to do instead is I've printed off a little card to help me remember. I'm going to take that and slide that right in there. And that's going to help me recall. So one of the other things that I've done is I've taken the decks when they were sitting on the table here and positioned the bottom 5 sideways, so that when I get to 5, I know that I'm there. But I've made a special card for me now, so I'm going to use that. That's going to help me keep track of when we get to the magical 5 number. All right. Other things we need to worry about in the solo play is rivals could get extra starting resources, but they don't because I'm not playing at that level, so that's good. And then, what else do we have here? I think we're ready to go except for 2 more things that need to happen. Okay, first player, we need to figure that out. So what's going to happen first player-wise is it's going to be the person to my left is going to be first player. So my big first player token here, your worm is going to go to my left. So this is my right, this would be my left. We're going to wrap back around to the beast. So the beast is going to go first. The other thing is we need to know how to play these automated opponents, and that's where the House of Hagal cards come in. And where did, aha, I'm trying to figure out where my House of Hagal cards went. There we go. All right, so House of Hagal cards. Now the thing we need to check is in the House of Hagal cards, which are used to drive our automated opponents here, some of the cards have a number up in the corner here. So if I take a look at, let's see if I can find one. There we go. That one says 1P. And guess what? We use that for 1 player. All right. There are some that say 2P. Those are the ones that are used for 2 player. We are not going to use those in 1 player. So your shuffle should go out, and then your Arakeens that don't have the signet ring on them should go out. So we're going to get rid of those cards. They go back in the box. And we're going to shuffle them up. Now, one of the things to note is there's an app that you can use, Android app that does this from Direwolf Digital. Handles this deck pretty well, so you don't have to do this. I find the deck to be sufficient. It does the job, and it means that I don't have to be wasting the battery on my phone running that. So like the deck here, it works perfectly fine. There is one thing that I'm going to add to the rules that's not in any of the setup stuff. So When you do use the digital app, every once in a while what will happen will be that the marketplace will get rid of a couple of cards. So what I do when I play currently is when I get to the start here, the round start, I'm going to roll a die. I'm going to roll a die, and if I get a 4, my 4th card is going to go away. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. So I roll a 6, nothing would happen. On a 4, the 4th card goes away and a new card would come out. And then what that's doing is that's keeping the market moving a little bit, because sometimes it can get kind of clogged up on all really expensive cards. It just helps things flow. Also, I've had cards go away that I really was planning on getting next round. And then I rolled the number and it went away, and that was kind of a disappointment. So sometimes it brings out something that you want. Sometimes it takes away something you were planning on getting. I feel that it adds a little bit more emotion to the game. So at this point, I believe we're ready to go solo. So conflict's out, all cards are out, players are set up, influence is out, we've got some troops, we've got all of our tokens up in the top there, we're ready to score some points. Intrigue deck is waiting for me to take intrigue cards, and we've got a Chome directorship just waiting for me to buy at a cost of 8 sometime, like many, many rounds in the future. So I think we're good to go at this point. So what I'm going to do is my next playthrough is we'll go through a playthrough of this solo setup and see how it turns out. But this should get you up and running, and you should be able to go on your own at this point in time and play your own solo round. If you want to see how to play through a solo round, then follow my next video, which I'll be doing right after this one. So if I missed anything in setup, or do you do something different when you set up that helps you keep track of things, or do you have some cool bits maybe that you're using? I 3D printed all of these bits, and sleeves is kind of my thing, so everything's all done up for me. You don't need any of that stuff. It's just stuff that I tend to like to have. These are little dollar store purchases, so I think it's like 4 for $1 or something like that. I do recommend something to hold your counters and stuff. It just makes it a little bit easier to keep track of them. These is totally unnecessary, but nice to have. So anyway, that's it for now. Next up is going to be the solo playthrough of this board setup. So thank you for watching.